There is one reflected there in forms of dress as perhaps a commercial sex worker. And we'll look at that as well. Anything else? Thanks, Bishop. Anything else that comes to your mind when you look at that imagery? Yes?
Man as a bowl.
Man has?
A bowl.
Man has a bowl. I didn't see the bowl. I'm glad another man has seen the bowl.
Like a bull.
Oh, man is like a bull. Yes, and there are expressions about masculinities in Africa that use animals. That men are bulls, men are he-goats. You know, bulls die with grass in their mouth. Those are forms of masculinities that are actually negative. I would hate us to refer to other human beings as bulls. But we have those expressions. Thank you very much. And a bull, my grandmother used to say that a bull goes to every home, but in the evening the bull comes back home. That is negative masculinity, because it does lead men into risky behaviors. And risky behaviors in this era, they bring all sorts of untold ills to families. Thank you very much. Men as bulls, okay? I hope nobody says women as cows. Okay. Anything else that comes to you from that imagery? Yes, my brother.
Socio-economic challenges.
The socio-economic challenges, that is very true. For all those women and for the man, surely he may have money if you look at it that way. There are women there who are empowered and there are those that are not empowered. Thank you very much for that one. Yes, Jennifer. Inequality, that one with four. One with four. It is inequality. Even Muslims who are told to marry four, they are told they should treat them equally. But I wonder whether that is really possible. From our brother yesterday, polygamy is a place of rivalry, of tension. As much as it was taken seriously within the African traditional context, most of the writings have always come from the men's side when they say it was very good. Women have not been asked really what they think about polygamy. Okay? Yes, my sister.
It doesn't matter what profession or age of a woman she's vulnerable throughout her life, and her profession does not protect her.
Yes. That is true. That a woman from 0 to 100, you are what? Vulnerable. Educated, literate, you are vulnerable. Yes, my brother or my sister comes here. The basic needs of a girl child. Why should she be infected when she is in school? Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go then on. Now follow my slides. HIV and AIDS continues to be viewed as the biggest practical and moral challenge facing the world today. The third and sixth Millennium Development Goals focus on promoting gender equality, women's empowerment, halting and reversing the spread of HIV and AIDS, malaria and other diseases. The inclusion of HIV and AIDS and gender equality in the MDGs suggests the importance they have been given internationally. Gender equality has been seen to be one of the ways that will help to halt the spread of HIV and AIDS. And what a wonderful conference to talk about equality. And so when we talk about equality to serve, then we are looking into issues of gender. I love statistics, although they are not divine, but that they do tell us something. Recent numbers of UNAIDS show that out of 23.7 million HIV-infected adults in sub-Saharan Africa, 13.5 million are women. The women's share in Africa is 57%, while worldwide this is 46%. This is caused partly by biological differences between men and women, but particularly by gender differences. I can only talk about what I know best, and that is my own country, Kenya. And I got a map on the HIV prevalence by province. And when I looked around, I did realize that actually the province that I come from, my own province, has the highest HIV/AIDS prevalence within the country. That is 13.6. At least now I can declare where I come from. I won't declare my ethnicity because that's dangerous, but I can declare the province I come from, although is it a county now or there are several counties in that? But in terms of HIV and AIDS prevalence, that is the highest. And I would say that in this conference, the majority of the participants come from my province. So I look at it in that context. And the percentage HIV positive women and men aged between 15 and 49. The next thing is when you look at the infections, where are they concentrated? For other people, it is clear it is homosexuality or prostitution. But it is clear that within our context, that heterosexual sex within union regular partnerships is 44.1%. Casual is 20, men having sex with men is 15, sex workers is 14, injecting using needles is 3.5, healthy facility related, that is you get blood or something, is 2.5. Why do I raise this? I raise this because as Christians, marriage and family life are significant to us. The church is a family, that's why I belong to it. The church is a family. But it appears to me that within family, HIV/AIDS is growing faster than anywhere else. But if you ask a Christian or somebody else, they will say it is among those people, prostitutes. It is among homosexuals. It is among whatever, young people. But you see, it is heterosexual, that is to begin with, but within union, regular partners. Maybe you are living together casually as come we stay, or married in church, which is important. But we realize that that is where it is growing. The fact that HIV and AIDS affects all aspects of our lives, and it works with all forms of oppression, be it class, race, gender, or age, sexuality, national and international relations, HIV and AIDS forces all of us to pay attention to the structures of oppression and raise our voices for a liberation of all of us who are infected and affected by the virus. So we can't run away from it, brothers and sisters. Gender inequality has been named as a major driving force in HIV and AIDS. And my colleague and friend Musa Dube has observed that women's vulnerability to HIV is due to the roles that society has assigned them. And we've looked at that this week. Due to their ascribed roles, women are highly vulnerable to infections. They bear the burden of caring for the infected. They carry the HIV and AIDS stigma, and when infected, they have less quality care. In all our four concerns of the HIV and AIDS pandemic, prevention, care, stigma, confronting social justice, women are hit the hardest due to their gendered roles in society. That we've seen this week. What are some of the cultural practices that are named and fuel HIV and AIDS? We could look at this image and get even some of those practical cultural practices. One of them is polygamy, or polygyny as is used in academic writing. This is the practice where one man marries more than one wife and endangers all the women in the marriage if the man or one of his wives is not faithful or does not use condoms consistently and correctly. So this man, these could be all his wives. First, he married the one he lives at home, and then he marries a professional because now he wants one he can walk about with to show. Then when he's having that, he has a schoolgirl and then he also pays for sex somewhere else. They could be in one home. In modern life, that is what we see. In traditional life, it used to be when you marry properly, so that everyone knows you have 6 or you have 8. These days, you have one you go to communion with, but then there are others. The popular, it's say in Kenya, is mpango wa kando. So the reality of HIV and AIDS has made the opposition to the institution even stronger. So polygamy, does it take place? Doesn't it take place? We know it is a living custom. It is still there. It may have come with a different color, but it is still there. In this era, whoever is in that relationship with the virus is at a risk. The second one is the practice known as levirate marriage. That is, in other words, wife inheritance. A practice where a male relative of the deceased is expected to inherit the widow. He's supposed to provide protection and meet her sexual needs. And we can debate about this, and we like that as academics, but the truth of the matter is that this is a practice that was in traditional society and is even today. We discover the precarious situation of widows. And you'll discover that sometimes you see it in the paper, sometimes you hear about it. It's very, very strong. It's a custom that goes on. Sometimes it comes out strongly in Nyanza province. It is us who tend to put it in the papers a lot. But if you look at most of the cultures of this country and even other places of Africa, this is a practice that is alive. I like when I go to funerals, when a man has died, you hear a lot of this. Sister, your husband has died, stay with the Lord. It's a very common thing we tell our sisters. I don't hear that being told to our brothers. And I've always wondered, why are our brothers never told to stay with the Lord? You know, and the sister, she's mourning and she's told the seat he was sitting on, Jesus should sit on it. The bed where he was sleeping, Jesus should sleep on it. The food, you know, it is now you are being married to Jesus. Let me give this joke, it's very crude. A friend of mine was widowed, very young, and she was harassed with the family because, as you will know, sometimes when a man dies, the woman is harassed as though she's the source of the death, especially by in-laws. And so she was harassed, and when the pastors came and the funeral took place, they told her to be with Jesus. She's a very social person and she speaks a lot. So she said, and I was told Jesus should sit on the seat and Jesus should sleep on the bed. And one of these evenings, I was wanting to find out whether Jesus was sleeping beside me. And I realized Jesus may have been sleeping with a totally different widow and not me that particular day. So, you didn't get the joke. Okay? So the notion that ladies have to stay with Jesus and men don't stay with Jesus, I always wonder. Because when I read Paul told Timothy to tell young widows to do what? To marry. That I never see it quoted. I always hear keep quiet, wear headscarves. That is really quoted, right? You are submissive to the man. But I never hear people encouraging that now you can get married because you are a young widow. That's what Paul tells, our brother Paul tells Timothy. You tell the young widows to marry and the older ones to do what? To take care of the younger ones. We never say that. Why is it in Africa? In Africa, as Bishop Okulu once said, that Christian marriage ends at death. But African marriage does not end at what? At death. So in some contexts, the women become the guardians of the grave. Is that equality? Okay? And those are some of the things we need to ask, so that widows, you are in a precarious situation. Are you married? Are you not married? He is dead. So who are you? What is the identity of the widow in the society? My mother was widowed when I was an adult. Not a teenager, between teenage and adult. And I do remember the struggles that she went through in the home. The question was, who is going to be the head of this home? And my mother kept on arguing that I am now the head of my home. I don't need another head. And we had to struggle with this whole idea. My mother is headless, right? She was able to carry on the things in the home, but she was always regarded as headless. The stigma that I saw my mother go through, and I kept, is she not whole? Is she not a human being? You know, they never told her to remarry. They told her she has to be taken over. And we know as Africans, single men hardly are encouraged to marry widows. So in levirate marriage, the person must be married. So levirate marriage causes again polygamy. We know that. We know that. But as widows have said, that you have the Christians when he is dead and they bury him. After they bury him, when the traditionalists come to harass you, you don't see the pastor, you don't see the Christians. They are not there to sing Rock of Ages cleft for me. You sing it alone. And I went to a mother's union and somebody was teaching and she was telling the widows, the only language brothers understand is to carry a machete and stay at the door and tell them, if you come in, I'll cut you. That's the only language. Because the more you say no, the more they think you are saying yes. Because it's culturally acceptable. And so you ask yourself, so levirate marriage, male relatives marrying the woman, and she cannot be allowed to marry. And those that have chosen to be independent to marry, we know the controversies that surround them. So I wonder how we interpret this text as Christians. Tell young widows to marry. When is that going to be preached? And how are we going to analyze it and apply it to the widows in society today? Okay? That is an image of wife inheritance or levirate marriage. And sometimes we can quote Ruth. If you look at Ruth, it's a case of levirate marriage. It's a case, in fact, where you are needing the head, the protection. You know? Why would somebody be looking for that? Why are they not whole? Dora Rudo Mboyasengo has observed that the traditional practices such as polygamy and levirate marriage increase the vulnerability of women with HIV because there is more likelihood of infection of other members of the extended family by the inherited in the cases of polygamy and levirate marriage. An infected man does not only infect the widow if he is not yet infected, but the widow may already be infected and infect the inheritor, who then infects his other wife or wives in the case of polygamy. In most cases, the man chosen to inherit a widow is a married man. I have said that, and that we know is a cultural context. Often when a husband dies and the wife refuses to be inherited, she is evicted from her home. And if we're asked us to tell stories of widows who have been evicted, there are many. We know them. Some of them are even in our own families, and we have done what? Evicted them. Or some of them are having court cases because this woman is rude, she's not obeying us. When you hear that she's not obeying us, ask yourself, how come when your brother was alive, she was obedient? And now he's dead, you think she's not whatever. The independence and questioning of women is a gender inequality issue. Cultural violence, we see women being kicked away, things being taken. Unfortunately, sometimes it is our sisters. These are things of my brother. You know, they come home and say, these are my brother's things. And so they take the mattress as if she will not sleep anymore. They take the pots as if she will not cook anymore. And these sisters, some of them, claim they know the Lord as Christ and Savior. Sisters, tutubu hiyo dhambi. Widow cleansing, that is a practice we know. It goes slowly, but it is there. The practice where a man is expected to have sex with a widow in order to set her free from the spirit of her deceased husband. It has been argued that this practice violates the rights of the widow. I keep wondering, how come It is the widow who has death, the bearer of death. You know, in some cultures that I know and languages that I speak, when our husband dies, they say she has eaten the husband. She has done what? Eaten the husband. It's like she has caused the death of the husband. Why? It will say that it's partly our cultural baggage and partly the way we've interpreted scripture. So widow cleansing, people forced to whatever, to do that. I know women who say that, if I don't do it, then they'll claim that anything wrong, it is me who caused it. So I also know widows who have resisted it and are normal, and their children are normal. But they have to be liberated, they have to have support to do that. If they are not supported, they are under that guise. I know Christian widows who say, I screamed, I told the pastor that they are forcing me to do this, and the pastor said, but that is our culture. We look at sexual decision making and HIV and AIDS. We said when we looked at this earlier, that is a question of inequality in terms of making decisions on sexual matters. And that is the case with HIV/AIDS. HIV in most African countries is often assumed to be transmitted predominantly through heterosexuality. So don't bring in homosexuality here. Most of it is transmitted through what? Heterosexuality. It has been observed that women are not in a position to insist on safe sex because of the dominance of men in sexual decision making. Somebody said, doing a research somewhere in Tanzania, and they said the riskiest thing a woman can do is to get married. But the church, we want people to get married. In fact, it's a command from God that, you go and do what? Multiply. And you cannot multiply alone. And if you multiply alone, of course you'll be sent out of the church. But if it is a risky thing in the era of HIV/AIDS, what are we doing? Sexuality is about power. And listen carefully, brothers and sisters. Sexuality is about power for those who determine the what, the when, and the how of sex, be it socio-economic or religio-cultural. I know women who go and say, I have been beaten by my husband, and the pastor says, did you give him food? And in Africa, we know what food is. Food is both food physical, it is spiritual. Food is also other forms of food. They are asking, did you give him food? When he came to the house, did you prepare the ground for his what? His food. So the victim is made to feel guilty that they are the ones who caused the what? The beating. So sexuality is about power. It's power for those who determine the what type of sex they are going to have. If it is the one they buy, they have the money to do what? To buy. The when, the Muslims are told anywhere, anytime, anyhow. You have to whatever. And whether it is buying it or whether it is demanding it because it is your what? Your right. A few years ago, I'll tell you this because it appeared in the national paper. A sermon was preached in this country by a very senior church leader. The sermon was preached in the context of a commission that had been set up to look into rape in what? In marriage. Because there's an assumption that there is no rape in what? In marriage. And this senior church leader, who I'm sure listened to God's Spirit, stood in this church and said, there is no way as an African there can be rape in marriage, especially after you have paid what? Bride wealth. I paid. When I paid, then it's not rape, it's a what? A right. So the what, the when, and the how is determined by the person who paid what? Bride wealth. Now, how we interrogated bride wealth in our churches. And it is something that, looking at the history of many of the women's organizations, our mothers, our grandmothers, they talked about this idea of bride wealth. Should it be there or should it not be there? Thank you. In heterosexual relationships, those who have the power are men. The gendered structure of sexual decision-making is informed by Christians as well as traditional religious sexual socialization. The social economic has to do with poverty. Poverty has been named as central in HIV and AIDS through its capacity to pull many threads of transmission. Statistics show that women make up 70% of the world's poor. They do 2/3 of the world's work, paid or unpaid. They earn 1/10 of the world's economy. So while poverty does not cause AIDS and HIV, it can facilitate transmission, make adequate treatment unaffordable, and accelerate deaths from AIDS-related illnesses. Poverty makes people more vulnerable to HIV infection. For example, people who are undernourished will have less robust state of health, which can result in a weaker immune system. They also have less access to healthcare facilities and education on health issues. We know that within poverty, short-term survival needs may force women and girls, boys, to exchange sex. Their only remarkable commodity for food, money, school fees, or other essentials for themselves or for their lives. If poverty takes the lead in sponsoring HIV and AIDS, women are at the receiving end of the poverty-driven epidemic due to gender construction that distance them from property ownership, decision-making, and control over their own bodies. So, how do we transform the world? I said here, and I do believe that as Africans, we've said and we continue to say, we are evangelical, we are biblical centers. We read the word, the scriptures, the centrality of the scriptures. We read, so there is a call to reread the word, the scriptures. How do we read the scriptures? And the Bible is not an easy book to read. People go for years to study it, but it is important to understand the Bible's culture and our culture. And Musimbi Kanyoro has argued that actually we go to the Bible with our cultures, right? And when we go to the Bible, we bring in the baggage. And if that baggage is supported by the biblical culture, then we go for it. So there is truth, the word of God in the Bible, but it comes dressed in the clothes of a particular culture, a particular worldview. We need to make sure we are seeing beyond the cultural trappings to the truth that lies beneath. And the truth is that because God liberates all of us. Mbiti once wrote that Africans are notoriously religious. And I'm sure anybody who studied St. Paul's, this is something that you always argue about. Why did he say we are notoriously religious? African women theologians have observed that if this is the case, then women in Africa are doubly notorious. African religiosity is not shaped by the church alone, but by all that is part of their milieu, their social and cultural milieu. In terms of women, there are many in the churches. In fact, a church that has no women is not a church. Women are custodians of culture and are socialized to pass it on. That's why they go taking mattresses, that this is my brother's mattress. So let's look at the fact that the Bible is significant, but let us read it and reread it and apply it in the light of people created in the image and likeness of God. Let us read it not in pieces. So like I said earlier, when Paul says, tell the young widows to get married, why don't we preach that at funerals? Why do we tell them to sleep with Jesus, to sit with Jesus, and to cook even for Jesus? But we don't tell the men to sleep with Jesus, maybe because we think that will bring up homosexuality. But because Jesus is a man. But Jesus is above gender. So let's tell the men also to do that. Let us also deconstruct the traditions. The way to transform is to deconstruct our traditions, dealing with the false naming, the male myth, which reflects the defective social arrangements between the sexes of patriarchal culture. And as such, it misnames the mystery of evil as well as the reality of the relationship between men and women. Why are women seen as the source of evil? Okay? Women have become the scapegoats for human sin and the objects of male fear, hatred, and punishment. Why? Worse, women themselves have internalized that myth that they are the source of evil and accepted it as truth. In this case, there are 4 ways women have been affected by this idea of being the original, breaking the original truth and creating sin. One is psychological paralysis, a general feeling of hopelessness, guilt, and anxiety over social disapproval. So I am single, but I keep on have to explain why I am single. Or I'm widowed, and I have always to be explaining my situation because I know that I'm not acceptable, I'm not approved within society. And we live with that anxiety. Secondly, women against women. The divisiveness among women themselves and rejecting of women by women. So that some people say, we would have ordained women, but women have refused. Socialized to despise ourselves and therefore despise the other. The false humility, never aspiring too high, a strangely ambivalent fear of success not being a rival to men. So if you are going to speak with authority, hey, you are becoming a what? A man. But as I said the other day, none of us wants to become a man, or none of us wants to become a woman. Emotional dependence on men, unable to stand on one's own feet as a woman, but needing male approval and affirmation of self. So even a widow, you cannot be real. Who is your husband? In some other traditions, they say, whose child are you? Whose wife are you? Or where are you cooking? You are what? A cook. Where did you go to do what? To cook. You are a cook. Nothing else. So the way to respond in this era is to build awareness in our churches about gender inequalities, gender roles, patriarchy, power, and authority. Interrogate how we use our local cultures, imported cultures, and biblical cultures in interpreting the Bible. We discuss the concepts of marriage, family, sexuality, relationships, premarital and extramarital relations in the contemporary what? Context. Mupango wa kando. It's only in this country that I see it portrayed in the papers, in the TV. It is there, we know that. Create supportive structures for single mothers, divorced or separated women and widows, rather than seeing them as a threat in society. If you are a single woman, seeing you are dangerous what? Woman, because you have no head. Have you seen a headless chicken? You'll run away. So if you don't have a head, it's who are you? So people are always asking for who is your what? Your head. Can we stop asking them who is your, or when are you getting married? They are 60 and you are still asking them when are you getting married? It's like you are not whole. Not all of us, not all women will get married. All men may get married, but not all women will get what? Married. So ensuring that these ones who have not been able to get married, they are seen as complete and as whole in God's grace. I like Paul. Paul actually says that not all of them, If you are called for that, go for it, do it well. If you are not, go for it and do it well. I don't hear that preached. I always hear the sermon of marriage and when you are getting married. Then when the widow becomes a widow, then you tell her to get married to who? To Jesus. Can we tell the brothers to get married to Jesus as well? So enhance the methods of HIV and AIDS prevention. The teaching on ABC, abstain, be faithful, condomize formula has been effective in HIV and AIDS prevention. But this focus fails to address other modes of HIV prevention or transmission that are non-sexual, yet equally important. Other methodologies include SAVE, that is having safer practices, access to treatment, voluntary counseling and testing, and empowerment. So SAVE aims to overcome the inaccurate connection inferred by ABC approach between immorality and HIV, which creates additional stigma around HIV. You know how people ask, when somebody says I'm positive, the first question is how you got it. How did you get it? Okay? So if you say it was through blood, that is okay. But if you say, then it was not your problem. But if you say, you see, it was mpango wa kando, all right? Then, you don't want to say. So the ABC approach implies that people who are HIV positive have failed to abstain and to being faithful. It also suggests that people who abstain and that condoms are a last resort. You hear, I can't even mention it is a church morning service. Then a judgmental approach to HIV by incorporating the principles of ABC while addressing its gaps by confronting all structural drivers of the epidemic. You know, if you say faithfulness, we know that there are men who have been very faithful but have gotten HIV/AIDS in their marital bed. There are more women who have been faithful but have gotten the HIV in their own what? Their own bed. So saying ABC, you are telling them that you are not faithful, but maybe they know they were faithful. Or children who have received the virus through the mother, you are saying they were not faithful. So the same approach also involves an analysis of the main factors underlying HIV/AIDS pandemic, which is stigma, shame, denial, discrimination, inaction, and misaction. These 6 factors are summarized as SIDIM. Stigma: if I say I'm positive, I'll be stigmatized or I'll be discriminated. Shame: how did I get it? Denial: I didn't get it. Inaction: the wrong preaching about it. The misaction: the silent over it, you do nothing about it. It is observed that in order to overcome HIV pandemic, we have to eliminate SIDIM, eliminate stigma, shame, denial, discrimination, inaction, misaction, and our society will be better. We are therefore called, brothers and sisters, to affirm theologies of liberation. We are called to move away from hegemony to partnership and from patriarchy to partnership. The basis of this is, of course, the biblical principle of humanity, created in the image and likeness of God, and are to live with dignity. This is given by God and not human. Let us go and preach it to all infected and affected by the HIV virus. Praise the Lord and thank you.